Okay, welcome folks. This is our lab for Design 350. It's Monday the 15th at 11 o'clock, and we're going to keep working on our number two, project number two. I'm liking what I see from everybody so far, and today we'll talk about the water supply and the electrical so that you can work on those utility plans. We'll go into real detail tomorrow. This is sort of a preview so that you can sort of have it in your brain ahead of time before we get down into the details. So if you see what we've got here, we're going to be finishing our local infill income generating project. The playlist will be just our recordings. And I've added onto here your water supply calculator, just in case you didn't have it from before, and a new one, which is an electric load calculator. Those are the two utilities we're going to deal with most on these because we have the capability to do that in the time. And the goal, of course, is just to complete your project. So let's take a look at what those two things are. The first one is your water supply. And this is some of the pumps that are available, ways that you can do it. But our goal is to determine what size utility hookup new we want from the purveyor. Okay, you're going to be putting up houses, you're going to be putting up lots of stuff. So just a tank or something isn't going to do it. You're going to need to go through here and for each lot, sort of create what you're going to use. And this little calculator is just a tool that will allow you to do it. You're going to have one tiny house, and you'll have one large house, and maybe something else. So you're going to have to modify this to work for you. Here's your toilet calculator, and just decide on your number, your gallons per flush, and how many flushes per day. Okay, so, and those can just line up right along here, and you can either add together your residence and your tiny house, or you can put that number right up here. What is this number? It's gallons per flush times flushes per day. Goes right there. Okay, and this is per week, so then you have to multiply by 7. Okay, all of this gets down to per week. So look this over and learn how to use it. We'll go over it more next time, but it was a calculator that was made for a specific use. You're going to need to modify this a little bit to tailor it for your own use. But we've got a toilet calculator. Every tiny house and every residence has toilets. We have a shower calculator. Every tiny house and every residence has showers. Okay? Um, you have a lavatory calculator. Every tiny house and every residence has lavatories and has sinks and may have washing machines. That's for a clothes washer. You may not have that in a tiny house. You might require the person to, go to a laundromat or something like that. That's pretty common, as a matter of fact. And they may or may not have a dishwasher. You might just have a sink and you wash your stuff up in the sink. But most residences would have washing machines or dishwashers. Okay, your tiny house doesn't necessarily have those. So you have to be thinking as to what's going to be on each lot. And every lot is going to need some sort of a calculation to find out how many gallons per week there are going to be used. And in addition, what is the maximum flow rate? That's a whole different calculation. Okay, that's based on fixture units and how many toilets you've got for your fixture units and so on and so forth. So this is just a calculation across that says if all of those get used at once, how much water would I use? And then you get to decide what's the likelihood of all of that getting used. So that's what this one's about. And your goal in the labs are to use these and to make one for each lot so that you can calculate how much water you're going to need to deliver to this new small development that's taking one lot with a few things on it to three, each with a few things on it. Okay? And that's going to be a big deal. This is a more important part of your proposal than in the last one because the utility, your water purveyor, whoever brings water to this site in the big pipe that's flowing underneath Winding Way, is going to have to make sure that they can deliver that water. And if they can't, you may need to find out what their limit is, and you might have to put a storage tank on the site. Might not be a bad idea anyway. So we'll go over more of these. We'll go over the water in detail on Wednesday, but I'd like you please to have looked this over and come with questions, and I'll do a quick demo on Wednesday. But Wednesday is your time to be asking questions and to practice how to create your own version of this that will be useful for this site. And again, the goal of this calculator is to reasonably predict based on the equipment and the knowledge of the architecture of what's going on to these lots to predict how much water you're going to need and how much needs to be provided at any one time by your system. Okay, so we'll work with this a little bit more on Wednesday. That will be our focus for Wednesday's lab, is the water supply options. Now, the next one that we'll focus on Friday are your electrical load worksheets. Now, you're going to need to address these before that on your drawings. You're going to have to find a place for your pipes and the water to come in, and where is the utility hookup going to happen. And you're going to need to show where you're going to put your electrical lines. But you can just create a dotted line for now and put the sizing in at the last minute. So we'll do the sizing on Friday, but it's good to be thinking ahead. And again, to be able to have created yourself a worksheet that you can calculate the things that are needed on the service load worksheet. Now, this one comes from the City of Davis. They're all very similar. They're based on the California Electric Code, part of Title 24, and they all look pretty much the same. They might record it differently, but the calculations are identical. So what do you need? First, this top part up here is environmental control. It's heating and air conditioning. and it's all treated separately. And so you're going to need to know the heating and air conditioning for each of your units, each of your tiny houses, and each of your residences. And you can use eQuest to get that. You can use Revit to get that. Or you can sort of do um, some estimates based on what is reasonable. And we'll go over those estimates on Friday. But if by Friday you've got a little spreadsheet that lets you figure this out. Now, what's NPR? National Public Radio. But that doesn't count because that's not the NPR we're looking for in construction. Nameplate rating. NPR. Nameplate rating. How much energy is this going to take? And it will probably be in watts, but it could list the number of volts and the number of amps. So you would read your nameplate for air conditioning, and you might have to go and look and see. Now it's got everything listed, so some of these, of course, will not apply. Okay, you might have air conditioning and electric space heaters, or air conditioning and a heat pump, or a central heating system. So you'll have to kind of think of how this will be done. And I've got some information for you on that. But you definitely want to be able to fill this all out. Okay? The nameplate ratings in watts. And then, I'm going to say that we'll be all electric just to make our lives easier. And so then you can figure out your total watts. Okay? And look, transfer the largest value, the largest of these, whichever one takes the most, you're going to put down here, right here. That's going to be part of your total. So they know that your heating doesn't come on at the same time as your air conditioning, so you wouldn't use that. You wouldn't use them both at the same time. You would put down whichever one is the biggest of your heating or your cooling. Okay? And so you can make yourself, I gave you a link, a cool little calculator that does that top spot. Okay? And so there we go. And then this is going to be, they have a fancy calculation to do later on. Okay? So you'll take the biggest one out of here. Then you start adding stuff up. And now they didn't really use the same figure, but you're going to come up with watts over here again. So the first thing you do is you take your square foot times 3 and you add that in there. If you've got 200 square foot, that's 600 watts. If you have 2,000 square foot, it's 6,000 watts. And then for every kitchen, you need two 20 amp appliance circuits. Now, I believe that in the tiny house, you can have one 20 amp appliance circuit. Okay? But, so you'll put that in here. How many ranges, cooktops, ovens, and you have to find the nameplate rating. So maybe you have one of those nice little countertop convection ovens that's 1,500 watts. You would say, I've got one of those at 1,500 watts, and this is per lot. This is per lot. And then maybe you've got one of those in the kitchen. So you would add that in. of your residence. A microwave, an electric water heater, dishwasher. So you have to kind of know how big things are. Just go look one up. You can find that out on Home Depot or Lowe's Quality. Washing machine, electric dryer, motor loads. That's going to be pumps if you have any pumps. Okay? If you have any kind of pumps or saunas or anything like that, those are the types of motors that we're talking about. Okay? A pool or a spa and other loads, and you just add it all up. So you want to be able to add that up for each lot very quickly. And so it's weird. Then you subtract 10, weird, of all the silly things. Add in what you got up there. And then add 10 in again. Oh, well, you subtract 10, multiply by 0.4, add the 10 back in, and get your grand total. It's so bizarre. What a weird thing they've got going on here. But that's the calculation. And then we want to know grand total watts divided by 240, and that's going to be your service load on each lot. So you're going to have 3 of these calculations, one for each lot, and each one is going to have their own new electric box. And we'll do those sample calculations on Friday. Okay? So I think that's really all that I wanted to go over. You've got access to these and you can make your own copies. And it gives you just a heads up to think about, look at it, come prepared to ask questions, kind of figure things out. Okay, we're going to have water supply and electrical supply. And then you have to figure out where those cables and pipes are going to be placed, because you'll need to dig a ditch and show where they are, and eventually you would have some details. At this proposal level, you don't. You just have to sort of show where it's going to happen. Okay? So that's what we've got going on. All right, there we go. I'm going to stop the recording and I'll get this posted in just a little while.